From the studios of Cue Ball Media in New York, this is the Create Your New Normal podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Quinones, and I will interview and share stories of people who have successfully reinvented themselves. They'll talk about the obstacles and challenges they faced and overcame to create their new normal. We'll look at what they did, how they did it, why they did it, and I know it will inspire you to get you from your A, where you are now, to your B, where you want to be. So are you ready to create your new normal? Well, let's get it. This is the Create Your New Normal podcast, episode number 7. And I'm excited to introduce to you my guest. My guest is a former licensed minister, Christian business coach, and founder of Business Church Life, where she helps women over 40 turn their corporate experience into a faith-aligned coaching business. Through her corporate exodus method, she helps women to stop guessing at their calling, get clear on the exact type of coach they're meant to be, and build a business that generates quiet income without running themselves into the ground. She's the host of the Launch Your Coaching Ministry podcast, author of 7 Steps to Achieving Life-Work Harmony, and a firm believer that your decades in corporate weren't wasted. They were just your training ground. So I want to introduce to you my guest, Monique Addison-Stinson. Monique, welcome to Create Your New Normal.
Hi there. How are you?
I am great. I'm definitely excited about having you on. Talking about the kingdom, it's right up my alley. I talked a little bit about you and what you're doing now. Why don't you share with our audience a little bit about your journey to where you are today?
Okay, sure will. And you're kind of breaking up on my end, so I don't
Uh-oh.
know if it's my headset. But and you said tell you what now? I'm sorry.
A little bit about your journey to where you are today.
Gotcha. So I grew up in the church. I've been in the church pretty much all my life.
Mm-hmm.
When I was little, my mom said that, so we lived in the hood, and
Mm-hmm.
there would be like drunks on the corner and people just, just chilling in the neighborhood
Mm-hmm.
Monday through Saturday. But on Sunday, it was a ghost town.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember being on the porch with my mom, and I asked, where is everybody? Like, where did everybody go? My mom said, well, maybe they went to church.
Uh-huh.
I said, well, I want to go to church.
Mm-hmm.
And from that moment on, the next Sunday, she took me to church. She tried to drop me off, and I was like, no, ma'am, you're going to have to come inside with me. And she and I have been going to church ever since.
Hmm.
So grew up in the church. I grew up in the AME church, the African Methodist Episcopal Church.
Mm-hmm.
And I eventually became, I had tons of roles in the church. I was a steward in the church. I was over the music ministry, and then I became a licensed minister in the church as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then I left that church, but I'm still affiliated with the church. I help out quite a bit. And I eventually got into Christian coaching because I've always been entrepreneurial, but I've always had a side business. So my coaching has always been on the side because I really planned to work in corporate until I retire. But God had different plans. My mom became ill, and so I had to take care of her full time. And so God was like, do this full time like I told you to.
Mm-hmm.
Do your coaching full time like I told you to. And so that's what I did. I decided to, I started out as a health coach where I would help Christians on their health journey. And I had so many of my clients ask me, how did you become a coach? Could you help me become a coach? And so that's when I pivoted to helping them start their own online coaching businesses.
Mm-hmm. Oh, great stuff. Well-rounded background there. Um, let's talk a little bit about your pivot. You said that you had, you've held a lot of different roles in the church, and your coaching business was a side business. So I take it that you were in corporate America for a while. So
I was over 20 years.
20 years. Now, let's talk a little bit about your corporate life. What were you doing in your corporate life? And what are some of the challenges of being in corporate? Because as we know today, corporate life is not what it used to be. Many of us had, plans to work for 40 years, retire, pension, gold watch, etc. But that's a little different now. But talk a little bit about your 20 plus years experience in corporate America.
Yeah, so I started out in sales and I eventually moved into district sales and had a break where I was let go from a job. And it was my district sales job, and I couldn't find another job.
Mm.
So every time I interviewed, I was told, you'd be great, but if you just had a degree, because I hadn't finished my college degree at that time.
Hmm.
And I think I was in my mid 30s. And so I decided to go back to college and I got a degree in human resources because I loved human resources. I know people hate human resources. I loved human
Hmm.
resources. And so I went back to college and got my degree in human resources management and began working in human resources. So I was a HR business partner, and then I also did some talent acquisition, had some talent acquisitions role as well. But being a Christian in the workplace is interesting because if you can't be too Christian in
Right.
corporate. Like you can't really talk about God too much. They don't want to, they want you to hang out with them after work, and
Hmm.
maybe they're like drinking or doing things that you don't do. But if you don't do it, then you're not being a team player. And
Hmm.
so it was just this really, weird space to be in.
Yeah.
But I had to be a team player. And so I would go to any after hours or whatever they were doing after hours. And then you got to, laugh or do a little fake laugh at their jokes that you didn't find very funny,
Hmm.
things like that. So it was a really weird, exhausting time. And then I'm also a Black woman. And so we already pretend when we're in corporate because we just want to fit in, right? We
Yeah.
want to fit in. We don't want to appear to be the angry Black woman if we don't agree with something. So that
Uh-huh.
there's all these masks you have to wear, and this dance you gotta dance while you're in corporate,
Uh-huh.
and it got exhausting. And so when it was actually COVID is, I think a lot of people had a lot of epiphanies during COVID. And so I was able to work from home quite a bit. And that was like my awakening where I felt like I don't have to, there is life outside of corporate and I'm already
Yeah.
coaching on the side. Why not lean into that and turn that into a full-time business?
Oh, okay. Great. So you were in your 30s when you had a tough time finding a job. Now,
Hmm.
fast forward a few years, okay, where, many, well, you were, 40 something at some time. Maybe you still are. I'm not going to ask your age. I'm not going to put
54.
it
I'm
out there.
54.
Oh, okay, 54. I'll let you put it out there. I won't. You put it out
Yeah,
there.
I'm proud to be
And you're
56.
proud of that. That's good. All right. But let's go a little further. Okay, being 40 in your 40s. Now you help Christian women over 40.
Hmm.
Okay, and you're also a Black woman. So I'm a big baseball fan. It's like having three strikes against you. If you're Black,
Right.
it's like having four strikes against you, which is really,
Exactly.
really tough. Now, you're obviously not going to trade that for anything. I mean, you're a proud Black woman, Christian, over 40, etc. But what are the challenges with all of those different factors? And I know you've mentioned some of it. Wearing the mask in corporate America, faking, with the jokes, trying to be a team player, trying to be a Christian, and also being older. You're probably a prime target for layoffs. So,
Absolutely.
what are some of the challenges of all of those things?
Well, kind of like what I mentioned, it's extremely exhausting.
Hmm.
It's to get through being somebody that you're not really, because you
Yeah.
cannot show up as your authentic self in corporate. And you're doing that day after day. You're modulating your voice, you're reading the room, you're doing all of these things before you even do your job. And
Hmm.
you're doing this day after day. And like I said, I was in corporate for over 20 years. So for over 20 years, I'm pretending to be somebody else.
Hmm.
And it's exhausting and it leads to burnout, which a lot of us deal with and have
Yeah.
dealt with. And you really cannot, in my opinion, be your best self and do your best work because you're pretending. You're just not being true to yourself.
Hmm.
So those are some of the things that I dealt with, and a lot of the women that I work with, we talk about this all the time. It's just exhausting. I mean, it is
Mm.
so exhausting, and you just want to go do your job like everybody else, and you have to do all of these gymnastics before you even get to do your job.
Yeah, and you probably want to scream sometimes, but you can't, obviously, in corporate
Yes,
America. But you want to go outside and just go, "Ah," to let
absolutely,
to let
absolutely, yeah.
yeah, to let it all out. And it's tough playing a game when the rules are not meant for you, right? When you're doing something and you have to pretend, you have to do, as you say, all the mental gymnastics. It makes it tough to do your job because you got to do all that before you do your job, and then even as you do your job, your head's got to be on a swivel. You always got to be thinking,
Exactly.
you got to be ready for the microaggressions. You got to be ready to attack them, but not too hard because if you go too hard,
Right.
then all the stereotypes, the looks, the feelings are there. So it's something that definitely a lot of people want to get out of. Now, especially with black women, because when we look at all the unemployment stats, okay, we hear, about participation rates, unemployment, these people, young people, etc. Black women are affected the most. They are hurt the most by all of these economic changes. So that is a very, very tough thing in corporate America. And I know that you've gotten out of it, and now you're helping other women to get out of it
Yeah.
because you don't want to spend the rest of your life playing a game that doesn't suit you. Now, you talked a little bit about pivoting. You talked about, your mom's health and, COVID and, just looking at doing this on a full time basis. And it just seemed like things lined up for you, right? So we talked about the challenges. Um, Now, let's talk about practical steps. All right. What are some practical steps that you took to create your new normal?
Yeah. So the first thing I had to do was pray and move. And when I say pray and move, I think, actually, I know a lot of the women that I have encountered, I've worked with, they get stuck in the praying mode because they're expecting God to show them the entire staircase.
Mm.
They expect him to show them plans A through Z, and that's not how that works.
Right.
Your confidence comes in you actually moving. And
Mm-hmm.
so for me, I had an epiphany. I sat back and looked at all that I was doing in corporate. Because like all of us, particularly black women, you do more than your job. All of us do. We do a whole lot more than our jobs, and we're
Mm-hmm.
never, given any credit for all of the extra stuff, let alone what we do in our jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had to sit back and take inventory of all that I do and see exactly what people pay for. You'd be surprised what people pay for online.
Mm-hmm.
People would pay for to learn how to basket weave. Like they literally would pay for anything. And so I had to take I call it an authority inventory. I take my clients through this and we start out, especially when they come to me and they're like, I feel like I'm being called to be a coach, but I don't know what kind of coach. I don't know what to do. So I take them through what's called an authority inventory where we literally or they list out everything that they do, whether it be in the home or in their jobs, with their friends, whatever you do, let's list that out. And they end up with a minimum of 30 things that they never even thought about
Yeah.
that then could turn into a job.
Hmm.
So once we list those things out, then we do some research to find out, is there a demand for that? Are people paying for any of those things that you found passion in any of those things that you listed? And then they're surprised. Like I said, basket weaving. Like there's literally
Yeah. It's out there.
people are literally paying for that, right? Or
Yeah.
gardening or whatever. And so they do some research. They look on Reddit is a great place to look. Um, Facebook groups, Amazon books, just to look at what's being sold. Just YouTube, excellent. Just to type in what it is you're wanting to do, and again, you'd be surprised. And once you figure it out, okay, gardening is something that I love. I didn't do that in my corporate job, but it's something I'm very passionate about. I see that this is a thing. Um, People really want to learn how to create their own, I don't know, above ground gardening or what I don't even know what it's called. I don't even know why I picked that, but above ground.
It's there. If you can type it in online, you can find something. So,
Exactly. And I bring it up because there was this one woman that I know of who literally turned her full-time business into teaching people how to create above ground gardens,
hmm,
making millions of dollars, mind you.
millions. I
And
like
yeah,
that.
millions of dollars. And so, but those are the steps.
Hmm.
Take an inventory of what you do, work and outside of work. What do your friends come to you for? What are they always asking you about? Okay, then ask yourself, okay, do I even like doing any of this stuff? Because you want to like what you're doing, right?
Hmm.
So if there are some things that you've always done, you also like doing those things, okay, then do some research online to see if there is already a market for that thing. Are people actually paying for that thing?
Hmm.
And then I encourage you to talk to a coach to help you get started. But if you can't afford a coach, you can still go to YouTube University and Google how do you start a garden business or how do you become a gardener coach or whatever they call it, a transformation coach for gardeners or whatever.
Yeah.
But start there. Do an assessment of what you actually do on your job, in your home, and what do your friends come for you for.
Wow, that's great stuff. I'm a big believer in that, listing all your skills. And, like you said, you have your skills at work, but there's so much that you do outside of work. And I think going back to what you said earlier, just about the job of a black woman at work, how you do more than your actual job, that extends outside because in the black family, in the home, the woman tends to be the one who takes care of everything. She's the one that, is like the matriarch, and she
Absolutely.
ties everything together. And, any black woman can coach pretty much because
Okay.
of the job in the home. I mean, that's what you do at home, right? You're coaching, you're making
Exactly.
sure that people are on point. Is this taken care of?
Oh my
Who needs to
gosh.
be fed, etc. So,
You
all
are
those
literally
things,
running a business at home.
exactly. So all those things are important. And then, as you do with this authority inventory, you list all those things, and you will be amazed at what you can do because when you're doing stuff at home, you probably have always been doing it or you've been doing
Right.
it for a while, so you don't really think about it, but you do so much more than your job. As the saying goes, we are much more than our job. Now in practice, we don't practice that a lot because we're so
Yes.
bogged down in who we are. But as far as who we really are, there's so much more besides our job. It's really amazing.
Absolutely. And if I might, God has given all of us talents and
Hmm.
gifts. And I don't think that it is just random that back in the day talent in the Bible meant money. And
Right.
nowadays talent means that thing you're good at. I don't think that's a coincidence at all.
Hmm.
So a lot of us probably are working in jobs that we really aren't, it's really not a gift per se. We learn that thing. And that's why
Hmm.
I like to do that authority inventory, because you can go back and think about things you actually like to do, things that you've forgotten about,
Hmm.
and like you said, people are so good at things, it just comes naturally. They really don't understand the gift that is in them, and that people literally pay a lot of money for that thing that you think is, oh, it's just what I do, oh, it's nothing, but
Yeah,
it's something to somebody else.
that's definitely true. This is the Create Your New Normal podcast. Anthony Quinones is your host, and Christian business coach Monique Addison-Stinson is my guest. And I'd love for you to like, share, subscribe, rate, and review this show on Apple Podcasts and on YouTube. That would mean a lot to me. So, going back to skills, now, a lot of this is a challenge for anybody, but I think it's an even bigger challenge for Christians, and I'll explain why. A few months ago, actually last year, I did a class on gifts, talents, and expertise that everybody possesses. And you'd be surprised at how little people know about their gifts. And I think a lot of it comes down to the way we look at gifts in the church. It's like if you say that you're good at something or you think you're good at something, you're bragging, you're proud, which is not like Jesus. And so we tend to look at that as, we bury those gifts. Now, we know about the parable of the talents when, the man had the one talent, buried it. That wasn't good. But a lot of us live like that. We live like the one talent guy. We hide it. We act like we don't have it. But I can imagine that's probably a big challenge for you as a Christian business coach, helping people to understand that they are good at things.
It's a huge challenge, particularly with women, because women have, Christian women have this weird struggle. So we talked about the struggles that we deal with in corporate, but we also are, for the most part, treated like second class citizens in the church as
Hmm.
well. And so there's a lot of things that we have to overcome mentally before we even have the confidence to now be an entrepreneur. And
Hmm.
being an entrepreneur brings up so many internal struggles that you didn't even think you had,
Hmm. Yeah.
particularly around confidence. And the way you get confidence is you do the thing that you're scared of.
Hmm.
And then each time you do it, you get more and more confident. And so it's women, particularly Christian women, really struggle with that because they just don't feel like they have a voice, because they aren't treated like they have one in a lot of churches.
Hmm. Yeah. When you feel like you don't have a voice, it's hard to get one. Um,
Exactly.
because you may feel like what you say doesn't matter, so why bother?
Yep.
You may not know what to say because you've been feeling suppressed for so long.
Right.
S- s-
Exactly.
So yeah, those are challenges. Um, Now, how about women over 40? Okay, there's a unique challenge with that, especially I think all of us do, because when we get to be around 40, 45, we're old in the workforce because people are trying to get rid of us at that point. I used to
Hmm.
say that 42 is the magic age because when you're 42, you're 20 years in, you have 20 years to go. So they're looking to replace you with younger people. So that comes with a lot of challenges. Um, how do you help women over 40? So we looked at the Christian part, and obviously you deal with Christian women over 40, but let's focus on the over 40 part. Like, what are some challenges of being a woman over 40?
Yeah, so women over 40, and you're right, we do have very unique challenges. We have, as you mentioned, been in corporate for 20 years, maybe 20 plus years. But we're also looking at the end game. We're looking at retirement. So it's this weird, scary place because do you hang in there? You see your 401k growing and you start calculating the years and days and hours you have left on this job. Um, the vacation you're going to take, the kids are going to be gone. You just really looking at it from that standpoint.
Yeah.
But as we mentioned earlier, that is not the case for a lot of women, particularly Black women. They have lost their jobs. They have found themselves without a job and there are no prospects on the horizon. And
Hmm.
so that is the challenge with women over 40 is that they can see retirement, they see the kids are gone, and they see that trip to the Bahamas when they retire,
Hmm.
but all that's taken away. What do we do? What do we do? And so
Yeah.
that's what we have to. I have something that I call a corporate exodus, and I think every woman, particularly Black women, should have an exodus plan. It's about 18 months of where you you actually take very strategic steps to start a job, to start getting client, not a job, excuse me, a business, start getting clients and coaching them on the side so that you can have something saved up on the
Hmm.
side just in case you're let go. Now,
Right.
again, there's so many, I think there's like 300,000 Black women that have been released from the workforce.
Hmm.
If you're in that ballpark, again, you can do this.
Hmm.
You can start where you are now. I don't care if you're living in a car. You can, if you have Wi-Fi, you can start some sort of business.
Hmm.
So you can even, we're living in such a time that you can just post about the struggles that you're dealing with. If you get enough viewers, you can be monetized and you can get a check.
Hmm.
Like that's the times that we're living in. And so that's what I'm saying. Every woman, particularly women over 40, if you haven't started getting some sort of side business, start today.
Hmm.
Think about, do that inventory that I mentioned. Think about what you like, what you did at work, and what people come to you for frequently.
Hmm.
See which of those that you like and just start doing some research and get started because these jobs have proven time and time again that they are not faithful to you. So you need to have a side something.
Yep. Side something, side hustle, side
Something.
grind, side whatever. Yeah, something. You know. Yeah, and it's what you're talking about is great because you're talking about preparing for when it happens.
Yeah.
A lot of reinvention advice comes after the fact, after the cat's already out. And the time to reinvent yourself is not when you lose your job. You have to do it beforehand because a friend of mine said it, said it best. He says that we have to act as if layoffs will happen, not if. And
Right.
so you have to have that plan, as you mentioned, the authority, inventory. You got to have stuff in place so that when it happens, you're not stuck. You're
Right.
not starting from square one. And, when we talk about being over 40 in retirement, I look at it as no man's land. It's a little bit like no man's land because what happens if you lose your job and you're 48? Okay, you're too old to get a high paying job because, again, corporate America is already looking to move you on when you hit 40. But you have now 19 years to retirement. Before it was 14, you retire
Right.
at 62. Then it was 65. Now
Yep.
it's 67.
Yep.
And the goalposts keep moving. I mean, heck, by the time you get 67, it might be 70.
Yeah.
So these are things that have to be considered now, not when you get laid off. So I think
Exactly.
what you're saying is great, great preparation for us. Let's talk about what you do specifically for Christian women. As I read in your corporate exodus method, you talk about helping women to stop guessing at their calling. All right? How do you do that?
So it's a lot of talking, really. Again, we start with the corporate, excuse me, the authority inventory, just so they can start thinking about what it is they do and have done and haven't, what people come to them for frequently. And I also have a quiz that is a free quiz, and it asks a few questions that get them to see what type of coach they may be. And once they know what type of coach, then we can work with that. But it's a lot of talking because a lot of women, particularly Christian women, have a lot of baggage that we got to talk through. And sometimes I
Mm-hmm.
have to refer them to a therapist, quite frankly, because, I'm not a therapist. I don't pretend to be one. So if we get into some heavy conversations, I may have to refer them out and then they can come
Mm-hmm.
back to me once they've worked through that.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a lot of talking through and a lot of realizations because a lot, especially with the authority inventory, a lot of women just never thought that they, one, did that much, and
Mm-hmm.
two, that they can actually create a business around that. So it's really a lot of conversation about things they never thought about before. Like they just go to their job and come home. They take care of the kids, take care of the house, they just never thought that that could be monetized. And so it's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of aha moments that happens.
Yeah, and it's great that you mentioned that you know what you don't know, right? You said that, at certain stages you gotta move, tell them to see somebody else and then come back. And that's helpful because, as coaches we can do a lot of damage,
Yes.
if we're not careful with our advice, if we're not careful with giving people the right direction, because sometimes we don't know the answer. And
Absolutely.
it's great that you do that. I want to talk about a story that relates to this. Um, there was a church service. It was a Wednesday night. I didn't want to go, and then I was a leader in the church, so obviously I didn't want to go to the meeting either. But I went, and the leader asked us in the meeting three questions. He asked us, "What is your strength?" And then he asked two other questions. And so the goal was obviously to answer all three questions. And we only got through the first question. And when we answered the question, what is our strength? Everybody said something, and it may have been true, but everybody in the circle said something else. For me, I said that people can confide in me. So if you tell me you're dirt, I'm not going to go running around telling people, did you hear what happened to so and so? Sometimes you don't even have to say that, right? If your mom is, strung out on drugs, that stays here, okay? Um, but a few of the brothers told me that I have the gift of insight and the gift of intuition. And I had heard that a few times before, but I never stepped into it. Intuition is a funny thing because you're not always right, but if you have good intuition, you're right more often than you're wrong. And so it was at that point that I began to step into this gift. And so my gift now is speaking and teaching. People have told me that I'm able to teach things in simple ways. I can break things down in the simplest form so people can understand. and then also speaking. So podcasting, speaking, writing, coaching, things related to communication. I've stepped into that, but that is not something that I would have found myself. If you asked me what my gift is, none of those things would have come up.
Right.
So people have to point you to your gifts, and I know that you do that as a coach because
Exactly.
we don't know, especially
Right.
Christians. We have ideas, but as you say, there is so much more that we can go deep and find out stuff that we've never even thought of.
Absolutely. I remember there was a member of our church, and she had this great job. She was a district something or regional something, and she was always traveling and, appeared to be a very glamorous job, and she made very good money. But her passion was interior design. She loved interior design.
Hmm.
And I would ask her, why don't you start a business? Like, why don't you just, she was like, oh no, honey. No, 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 no. That's just my hobby. No,
Uh-huh.
no, I can do that. And I'm like, but interior designers make really good money. But
Yeah.
she could not connect the two. She just thought that what she was really good at and something that she really enjoyed was just something that was for her, something she found pleasure in, but she didn't realize that she could make really, really good money and have a little less stress as well.
Yeah. A
So
lot of our
I've seen that a
passions.
lot.
Yeah. We're good at different things, but a lot of times our passion is something other than our jobs, and we can make a lot of money doing those things. So it's a perfect segue to my next question is how do you help these women build a business? Okay, building a business is a challenge, building a business is great, but we also don't want it to run us into the ground. So how do you help them to create a business but not let it run them into the ground?
Yeah, so we take it step by step. I give them baby steps, to be honest with you. The first phase is really mental.
Hmm.
We really take about a month of really dealing with your identity because that is one of the issues that a lot of Christian women have. Like I said, they're so used to being ignored in the church, ignored on the job, just completely ignored. So at this point they feel really small, don't feel like they have anything to offer. So we really and again, as I said, if it gets too deep, I will refer them to a therapist and then they can come back.
Hmm.
Um, but once we get through that part, we also go through the authority inventory. We then take small steps. So they have to do tons of research because at this point, once you, okay, I feel like I am a transformation coach, for instance. So now we got to look at, okay, what does that look like? What type of client do you feel like God is calling you to serve or to work with? And we do that by looking at who comes to you often, who do you feel qualified to help? For me, as Christian women, I have worked with men, but I can relate more to women,
Hmm.
particularly women over 40. So that is who I also feel called to serve and to work with. And we go through that, a lot of prayer and to really make sure that we understand who it is God has called us to serve. And then I help them and I give them the words to say to do what I call market research and to actually talk to these people that they feel like they've been called to serve. And what they're doing is talking to them, finding out what they're saying their problem is,
Hmm.
making sure that they really can help them solve that problem, getting the language that they're using. Because once you become a coach, you start using these coachy words, just like Christians. We use these Christian words that nobody knows, but you you want to relate
Yeah.
to your
Uh-huh.
potential ideal client. So you want to hear what they're saying, what words they're using, how are they describing this problem that you're going to help them solve, so that you can then use that whenever you do your content online or whenever you create your program. So I have them do some coaching sessions with who they feel like they've been called to help, and once they do those sessions, they will come back and kind of look at it and see, okay, they have this issue. I've gone through that. I've come through that myself. And then we work through the steps. Okay, how would we walk backwards? Okay, this is the issue they're dealing with. This is what they want to become. Let's walk it back on what are the steps of how you can get them to get whatever it is that they want. And then we walk them through, developing their particular framework or their particular coaching session.
Hmm.
And again, I have them take some more clients. It's a lot of practicing and
Oh
talking to
yeah.
people, so that they can really understand what their client wants and if this particular framework actually works on real people. So they
Hmm.
test it out, and it's called a beta test. So they do a beta, test it out, see if it works, get some feedback from that particular client or clients to see, okay, maybe this didn't work here. Maybe they should put step 4 and step 2, make some adjustments, and then move from there. And
Hmm.
once they've had gotten some good feedback, made some changes, now it's ready for market. And I show them how to use social media to promote themselves. And once they've gotten, I'm trying to go through it fast. Once they've
Hmm.
gotten enough clients and they feel like they're repeating themselves, now we can turn that into a digital product. So now you can record yourself, and that can become your coaching program that you can sell on repeat. So now you have your automated product, and then you have your actual in-person product or online product.
Wow, great stuff. I'm excited to learn more about your coaching program myself. I really love the idea of baby steps, because you're trying to draw people out of corporate America, which is a tough thing because we have spent most of our lives gearing everything towards it. So we had, this has a grip on us, we got a grip on it. And so to get us to get out of it, it's going to take some time. And so these conversations, I think, are really, really helpful.
Yeah, and some of my clients are still work. Actually, I would say 60% are still working a full-time job, and so
Hmm.
they have to, go to their job, do their work at home, and then find a few hours in the day to actually work on their business. And so,
Hmm.
it's a struggle and a lot of juggling, but I show them how to make that fit. Sometimes they got to work an hour before work and a few hours after the kids are in the bed or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I show them how to make that work in their real lives while they're still working a real job. And
Hmm.
so that's why we got to take baby steps, because a lot of them are working full time.
Yes. Now, you can't make somebody pivot, okay? Pivoting is a personal decision. But how do you know when somebody is ready to pivot? Because sometimes we may not see it. So, is there anything that you see in people that you can let them know, hey, I think this is a good time for you to shift from your A to your B?
I literally just had a client this past week who came to me. She is basically doing everything. She has a job. Let me back up. She has a full-time demanding job,
Hmm.
and she has her side coaching business. And she didn't come to me before she started this business. She came to me after she was burned out. And so she's currently burned out, and she is doing cohorts. So a cohort, if, for those who don't know, is basically a group coaching program, and you would hold it or coach for a specific amount of time, maybe a couple months, for that group, and then you open it up for a new group. So you have let's say you have a cohort of 12, you coach those 12 in 3 months, and then you open it back up for another 12. So she
Hmm.
is doing that type of cohort coaching, but she is exhausted. And you ask, how can you tell? She's lost her love for the thing that she used to love.
Mm.
Like, she's so tired and exhausted that she has lost the love for this thing.
Mm.
And that is, I told her it's time to pivot. It is time to make some changes. And her face lit up when we started talking about recording your cohort. The next one you do, record it,
Hmm.
and you can then turn that into a product so that you don't have to keep repeating yourself. Like, just people asking her questions was starting to annoy her. Like, she was just getting annoyed because she's answering the same question over
Yeah.
and over again. That's a sign that it's time to pivot when
Time
you
to
are
put,
annoyed
well, it's
with
time to
people
put an
asking you simple
FAQ.
questions. Yeah,
Put an
yeah,
FAQ on your website. It's about that
right.
time.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So with her, I gave her some coaching on how to turn that into a product that she can then sell, and showing her how to now pivot to other things
Hmm.
that still helps its client, but in a different phase in life. Because all of our clients have different phases in life. So you
Yeah.
may have helped them with this one phase, but now you can help them at the next phase, right? And
Hmm.
so that's what I'm showing her how to do. But yeah, to answer your question, once you are annoyed by someone asking a simple question and you like, I cannot answer this one more again. I do
One
not
more
want to answer
again.
this
That's,
question.
I love saying that.
I know, right? But it's time to pivot. Let's do something a little different.
Yeah, when you realize that your past love is no longer your love, it's time to move on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and and we're at a time now. I mean, back in, even as recently as 30 years ago, I mean, you pretty much had a profession for 40 years. Now people's passions change. They change all the time. Some people may work in 5 or 6 different disciplines before they get out.
Absolutely.
So we got to be ready to pivot.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
I want to talk about an article that you wrote. Now, you wrote it a while ago, so I may not get all the details right. But I want to close out with this. You talked about being called as a coach, and how a lot of times when we go into coaching, we put a lot into certifications. When and talking about a kingdom business, okay, talking about helping Christian women, the calling is really what you do for people. It's how you've helped. Is that a perfect analysis of your article?
Yeah, so I
Yeah,
get
talk about
asked.
that.
Yeah, so I am asked quite a bit about certifications. Now, I am not hating on certifications. I think certifications are amazing, and I think
Hmm.
you do need them, but you don't need a certification to start coaching.
Hmm.
And also, you, and I see this a lot with Christian women. We pray and pray and pray and pray, and we have all these excuses and we never have any movement. And so a lot of us are using that I got to get this certification as this clutch and this thing that they have to overcome before they even start their coaching business. And so
Hmm.
I talked about basically, you don't need it. You don't need it to start. You may need it eventually, but to
Hmm.
get started, you really don't need it. And what was your question again? I want to make sure I answered.
It might come out kind of clunky because it came to mind as we were talking,
Uh
the
huh.
article that you wrote. But you had written an article and it basically said that certification is okay, but don't let that stop you from helping people because really the
Right.
calling is not the certification, it's God giving you the ability to do what you were put here to do. Is that
Exactly.
okay?
That's exactly right. And I have to remind a lot of my clients that your calling isn't for you. It is for the people that God has assigned to you to help. And I have to remind them of that because once you think of it that way, you take you out of it.
Mm-hmm.
You're just the deliverer of the
Right.
word, of the message, of the help. Then you feel more empowered to be like, okay, this is not even about me. I don't have to, stress too much. Like, I got to get it right. I want to make sure I help this person. But you realize that people aren't looking at you like that, you know, especially for women. Like, they want to make sure their hair is done. They got to do this, got to lose weight before they get on camera. Like, nobody's looking at you like that. They
Uh-huh.
want you to help them solve their problem. And that's what your calling is to solve a problem for somebody, or to assist somebody to get from plan, from A to B. And that is what your calling is. It is not about you.
Mm-hmm.
It is not about you.
Yeah, that's great advice. That's great advice to end with. I definitely appreciate our conversation today. Appreciate what you do, what you've
Thank
done so
you.
far. And it's definitely inspiring to have you on my podcast. So before we end, where can our viewers and listeners, heck, how can I find out more about you, who you are, and the great work that you're doing?
Thank you. Thank you so much for asking me to be on your podcast. You can just go to businesschurchlife, all one word, .com, and everything's on the website.
Oh, businesschurchlife.com. Is that it? You said? Okay.
Yep, that's
And
it.
yep. And it'll be in the show notes. Definitely going to put this article that you wrote. It's very inspiring to me. And I know that it'll be inspiring to the women that you've helped and the women that you will help. So thank you for being my guest. Thank you for all the great work that you do. And again, thank you for being a guest on Create Your New Normal.
Thank you for having me.
All right, you're welcome. That is Monique Addison-Stinson, Christian business coach. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Create Your New Normal. And don't just listen. Like, share, subscribe, rate, and review this show at Apple Podcasts and on YouTube. And for more information on how you can create your new normal, visit createyournewnormal.com to learn how to reinvent yourself on your terms, not someone else's. That's createyournewnormal.com. Well, that's all for now. And until next time, I'm your host, Anthony Quinones, inspiring you to create your new normal. Take care and God bless.